Hello, welcome back. This section is 1-1, which is on circles, and it's really one of the easiest sections that we do. So one of the formulas that you'll be given is that x squared plus y squared equals r squared is the equation of a circle. When the center is at 0, 0, and the radius is represented by r. So you basically will just need to take the square root of whatever that is to get your radius. All right, so for this first one, we have the center is at 0, 0, and the radius is equal to 2. And so if we're given the center and the radius, we're just converting it to this form right here. So I would have x squared plus y squared is equal to 2 squared, and 2 squared is equal to 4. And so that's how we end up with this. All right, number 2 is very similar, but we can always have transformations inside of our center. For example, if my center is at negative 4, 3, then, and the radius is at 2, then what happens is where I have my squareds at, this will represent the x, and so I would have an x plus 4 here. This represents the y, and so I'll have a y minus 3 there. And so my signs just change when I put them back into the equation. So I end up with x plus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. All right, let's move on to this next question, which is like number 3. So it says, write the standard form of the equation of the circle with the given circumstances. So this time our center is at 3, negative 4, and our radius is at the square root of 11. So from my center, I'm going to have x minus 3 squared, right? I just changed the sign there. And then I'll have y plus 4 squared. I change the sign there. And then for my radius, it's the square root of 11 squared. And the square root of 11 squared is just 11. And so that's how I end up with this equation here. All right, let's move on to number 4. Okay, for this next one, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. What you can see is that they are asking us to write the standard form of the equation of the circle. They're giving us the center, and then they're giving us a random solution point on the graph. All right, so what this means is we're still going to utilize our equation based here, but we don't know our radius. So we are going to be able to find our radius, which our radius should be 5 based on the fact that this is 25, right? But remember, this is the solution here, so we don't really know that yet. So what we're going to do is we can actually write this using our formula. So our center would be x plus 2 based on our center of the x value. And then for our y, which is negative 9, that would be y plus 9 squared, right? So I'm just taking these two here. And then I don't know what r is. That's what we're going to try to find. Also, they give us one ordered pair x and y, and they have to give us that information. So the 2 will actually go in here, and the negative 12 will go in for the y value, and that's actually going to allow me to solve for y. And so that's what they did over here. You can see that they did that. So I'm going to have 2 plus 2 squared plus, and then my y value is negative 12 plus 9 squared equals r squared. All right, so then what I'll do is I'll figure out what this number is, right? I can use my calculator to determine that number. And so when I figure out what this number is, it ends up being 25 is equal to r squared. Then I take the square root of both sides and I get r equals 5. And now that I have that, I'll plug that in back into my equation. And so that's how we end up with this equation right here, right? Because we square that 5. If the radius is 5, we square it to get the value here. And then we kind of already had this first part we actually already had at the beginning based on the center of the circle itself. All right, so this one's going to be a little more difficult because they're giving us the endpoints of the diameter. So if you think about a circle, you know, we know that this is the radius, but if they give us the diameter and they tell us that this is at 3, 2, and this is at negative 9, negative 8, well, one of the first things we're going to want to do is to find the center. And to find the center, we're going to have to use the midpoint formula. And that's actually from a different section, right? So I'm going to have to use the midpoint formula to find that. So the midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. And I'm just going to be plugging in x1, y1, x2, y2, right? So I'll have 3 plus negative 9 over 2, comma, 2 plus negative 8 over 2. And so this will become negative 3. And right here, that would be also negative 3. Okay, so that gives me the center. All right, so now that I have the center, I can write the standard form of my equation. The only problem is, you can imagine, we're missing the radius, right? And so we're going to have to figure out what r is, again, similar to what we did on the previous problem at this step. So what we'll do is we'll choose either ordered pair that they gave us, and we'll be plugging that value in for x and y. All right, so you can choose either ordered pair. I think I'm going to choose 3 too because it just looks friendlier. So I'm going to plug the 3 in for x, and I'm going to plug the 2 in for y. And you could have chosen either ordered pair. All right, so that's going to be 3 plus 3 squared, and then the y value is 2. So 2 plus 3 squared. And we don't know what r squared is yet. We're trying to solve for r, right? So then I'm going to calculate all of this. So I can use a calculator to do that. So that would be 61. So when I figure out what this is, I end up with 61 because it is 36 plus 25. Okay, so that equals r squared. And then I just simply take the square root of both sides. And I get that the radius is the square root of 61. But just remember, when I plug that in to my standard form of the equation right here, when I plug in the square root of 61 and I square it, I do get 61. All right, so that's how we end up with this for our equation. All right, let's get into some of the graphing ones. So these are actually not that bad. So to find the center and radius of the circle, the center, of course, we just change our signs in the parentheses. And for the radius, to find the radius, when it's given in the equation, we just take the square root of that number. And so this, in this case, the square root of 4 is 2. So my radius is 2. And then the center is 1 comma negative 2. So I believe you should be able to just type that in, and it should be able to graph it for you. And then you can also click on the help if you need to. All right, so then there's another one like that. Number 7, very similar. We are just going to, I think we get multiple choice. Okay, so I'm going to change the signs here, and that will give me 3 comma negative 4. And then the radius is equal to the square root of 16 over 9, which is the same thing as the square root of 16 over the square root of 9, which is 4 over 3. So my radius is 4/3. And then you would just pick the circle that matches. So 3 negative 4 would be located in this quadrant, but we want the radius to be 4/3, right? And so this radius would be too big because this radius looks like it's probably 3. And this looks a lot smaller, so I would choose that one. All right, I hope this video helps you. I don't think this homework is that bad. I hope you have a great day. Bye.